Thank you. I will talk something about the topic about this great schism of 1045, 54, Western perspective. How the West look at this, at the East, in the history. It is some kind of the ecclesiology. It is some kind of different approach to the problems which were problems from the early Christianity. We know that the Roman Empire wasn't unified in many ways. There were two parts. The Greek parts, where the Greek culture, Hellenistic culture, was dominated, and the Latin West part. So that great schism of 1045 between the Church of East and Church of West was culmination of the gradual process of estrangement that began at the first centuries of the Christian era and continued through the Middle Ages. In these beginnings, in the first 4 centuries, we have two models of, we can say, ruling or the state crafting in the church. We have that of Saint Eusebius of Caesarea and that of Augustine of Hippo. See how Augustine of Hippo was looking on the church and how to what is a church on the earth. You know that he wrote 2 cities, the God and the heavenly city, the God city, and the state, the earth city. He was writing these books in the time when the Western Roman Empire was destroyed. It was claiming under the barbarian, which were entering in the Roman Empire. Some of them were not so aggressive, but Vandals and Goths were. So he wrote his 2 cities, and he proposed some other, we can say, ecclesiology than that of Eusebius of Caesarea. These barbarians, which destroyed even his Hippo and killed him, gave him a pessimistic outlook of the humankind, a potential to create a heavenly kingdom on the earth. Instead of returning to earth to its paradisical glory, Augustine acquired that it was the responsibility of the Christian church to hold corrupt political actors accountable and to stand in the judgment against the inventable wickedness of the world. Heaven would have to wait until the next life, after the death. The heaven comes after the death. But on the other side, we have, much before Eusebius of Caesarea, we have a Roman Empire, which is experiencing much greater peace and prosperity than the West part. And Eusebius of Caesarea, who was astonished by the Emperor Constantine, was hopeful about humankind's potential to build the kingdom of God on earth. He believed a righteous emperor could rule over the Christian kingdom, returning the world to the paradisical experience of the Garden of Eden. In Eusebius' view, there could be no separation between politics and religion. Church patriarchs and the Roman emperors would rule together in divine harmony. These two visions would have profound implications for political and theological development going forward. In the East, Eusebius' harmonious vision would quickly devolve into Caesaropapism. In the West, Augustine's division between church and the state would lead to the century-long power struggle between kings and popes. The struggle would weaken the executive power of medieval kings and allow alternative political actors like parliaments to emerge, setting the stage for the West's current system of divided government. During the 5th century, Visigoths, Ostrogoths ran across the western half of the empire, destroying imperial administration and culture. The Christian church was the last Roman institution still standing. The ensuing so-called Dark Age turned out to be a golden opportunity for the church to renegotiate political relations with the new barbarian neighbors. The first pope to recognize this potential was Leo the Great, who began claiming that Rome had jurisdictional preeminence over the entire Christian church, both East and West. He also began condemning the Caesaropapism that take root in the East, which helped consolidate his Rome-based rule. During the 7th century, waves of Eastern clerics began flooding into the West, forever influencing the liturgical and theological character of the Catholic Church, of the West Church. These refugees were fleeing from persecution in Constantinople, which had been overrun by heretics in some part of the history, monophysites, monothelites, and iconoclasts. Additional refugees came from the areas devastated also by Islamic presence into the eastern half of the empire. Although the refugees created a new Eastern style church in the West, although some parts of the theology and the art, but in the mind, because they came with fear and angry what is going on the East. East was weakened first in himself, the monophysites, the monothelites, then iconoclasts. It was all weakening the empire. Those who are coming on the West were Orthodox. They were true believers. They come to West, they were protected there. They were against the Caesaropapism. Why? Because the emperors were those who were, how can we say, they ruled the church. One was monothelitist, one was monophysite, one was for the Orthodox Christianity, true believers. The emperors became iconoclasts, so they make the confusion in the church. So the many of the intellectuals of the East came to the West. They were safe there. So they brought with them the angry mostly on the emperors, mostly on those kind of Caesaropapistic shape of the rule. But they also have influence on the developing of the Western theological thought. Also, they try to find something which will, on the West, be some kind of the clerical power, which is theological, which is biblical, and that was the Pope. And Pope Leo the First, the Great, and the other popes were on that race. So they organized a synod of 6049, which was the first synod in the Roman Empire, which was not, we can say, supported by the emperor. Nobody asked the emperor. And they condemned the practice of Caesaropapism. They called for church independence, clerical independence, hierarchical independence. And the Pope was the ideal for this kind, we can say, new power, new church, where the Pope was the one who will be the head of the church, not the emperor. And it was something which was, I can say, on the line of St. Augustine's thought. There will be a heaven on the earth, heavenly representative on earth. It is St. Peter's. It is the Pope which is on the apostolic succession of the St. Peter's, and there will be the civil, we can say, civil state or civil power, which must be controlled by the church, not like in the East. Then we have problems. Theologians of the Charlemagne's empire, Frankish court, were anxious to create a new, distinctly Western form of Christianity. They established Latin-based schools and universities. New spirit of correctio dominated the Western church. It emphasized the centralization and systematization of political and ecclesiastical governance. A new pedagogical approach to artwork also emerged. This was a response to the Eastern debates about the power use of icons. It was some kind of, we can say, theological thought about icons. St. John of Damascus said that the religious depictions were not idols to be worshipped, but the icons to be revered. God's presence was manifested through the icon. Just God, immaterial presence, was manifest through the material body of Jesus Christ. But the West Church said no. Frankish theologians said no, it's not like that. In iconoclasts and the iconophils are wrong. Liturgical artwork was just pedagogical, not devotional, although it will be changed after. But if we can see here the two different parts, the two different stands about church and about something like art in the church. We have the Western emphasis on the God's transcendence as opposed to the East emphasis on God's immanence within His creation. Western church architecture is vertically orientated with the tall spires pointing to the God residing on the heavens, not on the earth. Eastern church architecture is doomed, symbolizing the union of heaven and earth. We have a Latin culture which was created on the West. We have something which was the Latinization of the West, but not in the wrong mind, because we can see how the Latin was important for Western culture, because we didn't have any other language. There was barbarian languages. So the church had sacred Latin and the secular vernacular language for the usual use. But illiterate rulers in Europe needed something which will do, how can we say, some kind of language which will be lingua franca for the West, all West Christianity. So it was the Latin. The whole administration of the courts was on Latin. It was important for the economy. The Latin monastic community had access to translations of the classics by Plato, Aristotle. The whole culture of the West was Latin. The corruption of the Latin Church in the 10th century related to reformist backlash originated in the monastery of Cluny. Over the course of the 10th century, Cluny became a monastic empire with satellite groups all over Europe and alternative base of the new Catholic power. In the Rome, hardline Cluniacs were busy reforming the church and were encountering resistance from the East. In this period became these fights about what kind of bread will be used in the Eucharist, clerical celibacy, proper wording for the Nicene Creed, filioque controversy. As this tension increased, both sides began pressuring churches with their domains to adopt their respective Eastern or Western traditions. On the East, they was enforcing on the Latins, on the Westerners, Eastern tradition. On the West, we have imposed Western traditions. So we have some kind of disagreement. In this disagreement, including the political reasons, which were connected with the South Italy and the primacy of the Roman bishop on the South Italy, there we have what happened in 1054. But this year, 1054, will be no special year. It is year of the big schisma, but it is the big schisma is something which was much bigger when the Crusades began. I like to say that the big schisma from 1054 is the schisma of the elites, of the popes, of the patriarchs, of the elites of the society and church. But the problem between East and West came after the Christians, after the Crusades came to the Holy Land. First, we have something which is Latinization. They came into the Holy Land. There were the patriarchal seat in Jerusalem and in the Antioch. They moved the Greek Byzantium patriarch and put the Latin patriarchs in Jerusalem and even in Antioch. They started Latinization of the parts which were Greek tradition, of the Greek clergy. And the culmination was Fourth Crusade, the destroy of the Constantinople, introducing the Latin Patriarchate into Constantinople, which was the great, we can say, it was something which was deep in the Eastern mind that the Westerners are barbarians. Barbarians, German barbarians, who took the Holy Roman See, and now they turned the Holy Roman See in something which it isn't. So for the Easterners, the West was corrupt by the Germans and West was heretic. For the Westerners, the East was schismatic, but not heretic. So the Western, we can say the Western powers, the papacy, mostly have, through all this century, some kind of tensions to make the unity again. That it will be one church. But in this phase, it was aggressive Latin approach with the Latinization of the Greeks. Those who are Latin, they are those who will be obedient to the Rome. If you are Greeks, you are disobedient. You are schismatic. You are not good. You must enter the Latin. You must take the Latin language, the Latin practices, the Latin tradition. So in this kind, you are okay. You can be the part of the Roman Church, and you are loyal to the Roman Church. If you are Greek, you are not. The Florentine, we have even one tractate of Saint Thomas Aquinas, the Contra Errorus Graecorum, against the errors of the Greeks. He have 7 reasons which Greeks must comply, some kind, or to obey, so that they cannot be schismatics, but to be true Catholics, that to be Orthodox in full meaning of this word. And all these 7 points are alleged to the Roman Pontiff and his power. All 7. So the papal primacy was something which was problematic in these relations in this early phase. In the second phase, after the Florence or Florentine Union, the Catholic Church took. It was on the east in the Constantinople. It was irrelevant after the fall of the Constantinople, but the Catholic Church took these, we can say, canons of the Ferrara Florentine Council and said, no, they are all right, they are canonical. So we don't have anymore the Latinization, we have creating of the unions and proselytism. You can have your liturgy, you can have your language, you can have everything, but you must, how can we say, you must be Catholics true, you must recognize the Pope's primacy, purgatory, you have your own discipline, it's okay, but you must be Catholics on this way. So we have proselytism and unions. All to the, we can say, half of the 20th century, the Catholics looked at the Orthodox like schismatics, those who need be returned in the Catholic Church by Latinization, by proselytism, by, we can say, by creating unions with the Orthodox, or in these parts of, it was very, we can say, popular in these parts of our Central European parts, because this was some kind of parts which we have Islam, Orthodoxy, and West culture, Catholicism. The part of the Orthodox churches, Orthodox episcopes, and who rest on the west part of on the Catholic rulers like Polish, Lithuania, and Croatia, they were set in the unions. They took the unions and became Greek Catholics. It was something which was for the Orthodox until today, something which they don't like. So this kind of the approach to the East is something which is now we can say the history. But the Catholic proselytism is through the history by Latinization or by unions to make Orthodox the part of the real church, which is the Catholic Church, because they say the Bible says there must be one church under the one ruler. I mean the Pope. The Pope is those who is head apostolic succession of Saint Peter. He is the head of the church. And when the Catholics saw the autocephality of many Orthodox churches, they said, here, you can see, this is not right church. Church must be one, with the one head. And this is the Christ and his vicar, and his vicar is the Pope. So they are schismatics. They must be returned in the real church, and that church is the Catholic Church. We can see through these centuries that there was 2 phases. The Catholic Church was... 1 minute. The Catholic Church was unifying through the centuries. We have a part from the part of the popes, then even Frankish Empire, German Empire. The Western Hemisphere was, during the Middle Ages, creating something which we call Christendom, Christianity, Christianitas. They were the part of the Christian world. We have first some kind of globalization. The East to the Middle West was in the process of losing the territory. The Byzantium was disappearing. There were national churches, autocephalous churches, which was something for the great Catholic Church of the Middle Age, which was unifying, which was strong. Something which was heretical, but they are not heretics because they were part of our church, so they are schismatics. We must return them back in the Catholic Church, although the Protestants were heretics. Many also today think that the Protestants are heretics. But the Catholic view on the Easterners was they are schismatics and they must be returned to Catholic Church by Latinization or by creating unions with the Orthodox. After the Second Vatican Council, we can see this view was changed. Thank you.
Thank you.